you so much for joining us tonight. On behalf of Niagara University's College of Business Administration and TREC, our co-working business incubator house, it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to our last guide talk of the year. And thank you to Pat and Roscoe for co-hosting the event series with us. My name is Anna Maria Ivaxson, and I'm representing the College of Business from NU, where I'm a coordinator for the graduate business operations. And I'm also a recent MBA graduate student. So if you're already a student at NU, or if you have any interest in joining one of our graduate programs, we offer an MBA in 8 unit concentrations or an MSF program. Feel free to connect with me. I can leave my contact information in the chat box later. So if you're interested in coming to join our program, I'm happy to answer to any of your questions. Our purpose with the Guide Talk series is to have honest conversations with real people, providing our students and business community the opportunity to engage, connect, and learn more about career and leadership development and how to make an impact on the community. Tonight, it is my pleasure to introduce you Liz Zulafsky, who is the president and CEO of the Leadership Niagara, the premier leadership excellence program in the region, and our panelist, Judge Watson from Lockport City Court, Bonnie Kane, who is a co-founder of Niagara Alliance for Restorative Services. Tonight, Ezra Scott is here with us as well, who is a coordinator at Niagara Falls Peacemakers. Susan Twykowski, who is a tourism development manager from Destination Niagara, USA, and Andrea Kleisick, who is the deputy commissioner at Niagara County Industrial Development Agency. Our speakers are all alumni of the Leadership Niagara program, and they will shine some spotlight on the Niagara region by sharing their stories about their leadership experience, how it has informed their careers and impacted the community for good. The conversation will be moderated by our very own Roscoe, who I don't need to introduce to you, but he's the assistant director of the Niagara Global Tourism Institute, and he's also a Leadership Niagara alum. Thank you all for accepting our invitation to join us. And a couple of housekeeping items before we start. The panel is being recorded and there will be a virtual Q&A session. So if you would like to type your questions, feel free to use the chat box, or if you would like to ask them, then raise your hands and we will unmute you. And now I would like to turn it over to Liz to tell us a little bit more about the program itself, and then Roscoe can take it over with his questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Anna Maria. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thanks to our panelists tonight for joining us. You all are so generous with your time and intellect and experience for the betterment of others. And I can honestly say that anytime we've ever called on any of you, you've always been there for us and for the community. So thank you. And certainly that is one of the beautiful things about the LN Alumni Network. They're all amazing leaders in this community. Just real quickly, if you're not familiar with Leadership Niagara, we are the longest running leadership development program in New York State. We've been in existence since 1984, and we serve as a model across the nation for several other programs. So we've shared curriculum and best practices and helped other programs get off the ground. So we're very proud of the fact that we here in this community have led the way in that means. The program itself is a 12-month program. There's 11 sessions and then a graduation session. Each session is thematic. We go through a variety of leadership competencies. We also explore the Niagara landscape, going through the county and highlighting different businesses and organizations, and hearing directly from leaders all throughout the county in regard to their successes and their challenges, and them sharing their experience just as they are tonight on this panel. Right now we are beginning our 2021 class. We do have a few slots left, so if you know of anybody who is interested in really developing themselves and their organizations and helping be ambassadors for the community, I encourage you to send them our way. I just want to make one slight commercial, and that is, at this point, people have kind of pushed back and said, you know, maybe I'm going to wait till 2022 to join the class. I'm not sure, you know, this 2021 class with COVID. And I just want to say that now is the best time to join. Now is the time when you need us most. So our whole mission is to expand regional leadership, and we do that through a variety of ways. But some of the things that we focus on are changing in difficult times, and transformation, and preparing people to lead in these difficult spaces. And so what better time than now to enhance yourself, as you see around this panel and throughout the community. The people that are leading the way in the community and getting us through this, you know, I would say probably 90% of those people are LN alumni. So if it's a thought, please don't hesitate. We'd love to talk about it, and we'd love to get you involved in the organization. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Roscoe Naggett, and we'll get on.
All right, thank you, Liz. Thank you to everybody for coming on tonight. For our panelists, thank you for joining us. Once again, my name is Roscoe Naggett. I'm the Assistant Director for the Niagara Global Tourism Institute, which is an organization out of Niagara University. So just a little background about the NGTI. We operate in and around the tourism industry. Our initiatives are grounded in 4 pillars: research, technology, workforce development, and entrepreneurship. And some of the programs that we've recently done in the area, we recently installed a public Wi-Fi network in downtown Niagara Falls. We've also been running a community workforce development program for the last 6 years, where we partner with residents in the city of Niagara Falls, put them through workforce development training in the tourism and hospitality space, and then we help transition them into careers in hospitality and tourism upon graduation. And our most recent project, which I'm sitting in right now, is Trek, which is a co-working and incubation space located in downtown Niagara Falls, 616 Niagara Street to be exact. And really the main premise of Trek is that we help individuals who have an idea for a business. So come to Trek, we'll help them go through the ideation process, business plans, marketing plans, and really help them launch a business. And we are open to anybody in the Niagara Falls community, pretty much anybody in Western New York who wants to start a business. Trek is the perfect place for you guys to come to. And as I was said, I am an NU alum, class of 2004 from the College of Business. Leadership Niagara alum, best class ever, class of 2016. And it was so much fun, I came back for more. I also am on the board of directors for Leadership Niagara. But really enough about me. I'm excited to be a part of this Guy Talk session tonight with, frankly, some really awesome people doing impactful work around Western New York. So without further ado, I'd like to each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves. Let's start off with Judge Watson.
Thank you very much, Roscoe. My name is Bill Watson. I'm the city court judge here in the city of Lockport. I'm from the Leadership Niagara class of 1998. Yes, 1998. They did have Leadership Niagara class going way back till then. I've been city court judge here in Lockport for about 21 years. As a city court judge, I handle criminal cases, civil, traffic, housing, many matters that are, essential to the daily running of a community. As city court judge, I brought on board here in Lockport 3 different treatment courts that are branches off of our criminal calendars. So I have a drug court that I've been presiding over for 21 years. We added a mental health court here in Lockport, and we've been doing that probably about 16 years. We had a young adult court specializing in individuals 16 to 21 years old that we handled up until just recently with the Raise the Age that took place in New York State. Most of the young individuals that get involved in the criminal justice system are now pushed into the family court system. So we no longer do our young adult court. One of the things that I enjoy most, if we're talking about Leadership Niagara, is not only was I a member of the class of 1998, but every year since I have been part of the Criminal Justice Day. So I've been a day presenter for 22 years with Leadership Niagara, and when the LINK program came on, we jumped on board with that too and presented for LINK. I talked to Liz this year saying, now that I've been doing this for longer than most of your LINK participants have actually been alive, maybe it's time for me to take a step back and let some new blood come in. Some of the hot topic issues that we talk about with the court system, not only the Raise the Age, but the legislative changes, those treatment courts that we utilize, and all of those have been turned upside down also with the pandemic. So that's a thumbnail sketch of what I do, and I appreciate you guys giving me the chance to be here today.
All right, thank you, Judge Watson. And now I have Bonnie Kane.
Hi, everybody. I live in Pendleton, New York, but as you can see, I am in Key Largo, Florida right now. The connectivity inside my motorhome was not real good tonight, so I hope you don't mind that I am outside. That is not a virtual background. You will see the palm tree move a little bit. I grew up in Niagara County. I'm a product of all Western New York schools. I have 2 degrees from Buffalo State, a degree from University of Buffalo, a CAS, and a PhD from Niagara. So I married my husband, Scott, in '85, right around when Leadership Niagara was coming into being. And I've supported him and helped him. He runs a small construction company, a masonry company, since 1989. We have 3 sons who are on their pathway to productive careers that will help support the community. Some of them are not local, but I'm hoping they do return to Western New York, where I've seen so much growth and so many areas that have been impacted by the leaders in the community. Very honored to be asked to be on this panel with such esteemed colleagues that are doing so much work. And I was a 2017 graduate of Leadership Niagara. I don't know if it was the best class ever, but I know we had a lot of people that were practical jokers and have very great sense of humor. So I had a lot of fun in Leadership Niagara. My career was a school psychologist. For over 25 years, I was in the Niagara Falls City School District, and I developed a passion at the end of my school psychology career. I retired in 2019. I developed a passion for restorative practices, which are an indigenous practice that have been around for time immemorial. And they are community building, relationship building practices that can be utilized when things go wrong in communities. When there's a harm that occurs, they can be utilized to help repair that harm. So I co-founded the Niagara Alliance Restorative Practice with 2 other individuals from Western New York who are both Native American. And we have been promoting restorative practices in schools and communities and organizations throughout Western New York. So I'm very passionate about it, be happy to talk to anyone, and invite you to circles that we facilitate. Since the pandemic, we have been doing everything virtually, and we are still doing many circles for schools and organizations throughout Western New York. So thank you for the invite, and I look forward to hearing everyone else's introduction.
Thanks, Bonnie. Now I have Ezra Scott Jr.
Hello, everyone. Again, thank you for having me here. Leadership Niagara, the College of Business of Niagara University. My name is Ezra Scott. I'm born and raised in Niagara Falls. My family has been here for multiple generations. I come from a family of a long family that's in the ministry and also servants in the community. Growing up, I was a triathlete. I graduated from Niagara Catholic High School, New York State Golden Gloves champion as well. I completed my Master's of Business Administration degree from Niagara University in 2019. And 2015, I was actually very fortunate to be elected onto the City Council in Niagara Falls, New York. Happened to be the top vote getter that year, won by 1,200 votes, which I was very honored by. And during my 4-year term on the City Council, one of the initiatives that I worked on was creating the Niagara Falls chapter of Peacemakers. As far as what I do, currently I am a youth and young adult case manager with Orleans Niagara BOCES, where I work with 16 to 24-year-olds under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, working to help them overcome barriers in their lives and be able to connect them to training and also employment. But I am the coordinator with the Niagara Falls Peacemakers. Our slogan and what drives us is responding to the needs of the people. Our mission is to create a presence in the community to foster peace, with kids, with families, also with the elderly, to have a safe, thriving community and neighborhoods. We do this by enrolling volunteers who are community residents and training them in strategic, nonviolent, engagement activities, but also conflict resolution. We also really believe in relationship building. That's at the core of all that we do. And the cool thing is that we're expanding our mission. So we started in 2018 in Niagara Falls, and we have a Lockport chapter that has recently started. And also we are engaging Krista Garland, which is a school board member in North Tonawanda, and we're in the process of starting to get chapter out there. As far as the best part of my work, what I love to do, I love building bridges and creating opportunities for the underserved by exposing them to resources that will impact and benefit their lives, and also promote personal and also professional growth within their families, and also just using my experiences and also my knowledge to empower and help build up new up and coming leaders. So that's a little bit about me, and thank you again for having me.
Thanks, Ezra. And now Susan Twykowski.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sue Twykowski. I'm the tourism person that kind of bridges the gap between the city of Niagara Falls and Destination Niagara USA. My employer is Destination Niagara USA, and I'm a contracted position that tries to extend the tourism season and extend events and activities and bring more people downtown in the shoulder seasons, which is prior to May and just after October. Other than being, the tourism liaison between the city and Destination Niagara USA, I help facilitate a lot of different things and wear many hats. So I am the chairperson of the Festival of Slice Pizza Festival. I also am the chairperson of Jingle Falls USA. I know both of them have been abbreviated and been brought online this year, but I'm not doing well. I'm usually the person who likes to be out in the community and bring thousands of people downtown. Unfortunately, that wasn't able to happen this year, so we had to turn on a dime and try to put our promotions online. I also help facilitate our Downtown Niagara Falls Business Association, where I'm the one that has us apply for grants and really tries to motivate collaborations between all of our members and promote and share best practices throughout our membership. We do a lot of marketing efforts, and we try to grow our membership to be both small and large businesses in our downtown. I also try to get all the rest of our business associations within Niagara Falls to work together, share best practices, and make sure that we all have a common goal of welcoming visitors and being more visitor friendly in Niagara Falls, extending our tourism season, and hopefully bringing more bed tax dollars into the city of Niagara Falls. I work very closely with Niagara Falls State Park as well, and I serve as a commissioner for Niagara Falls State Park. And I'm very happy to be a member of the class of 2015 at Leadership Niagara, which really is the best class ever. I'm a lifelong resident of Niagara Falls and also an alum of Niagara University's Communication Studies Department. So very happy to be here today. Thank you for asking me to be part of this panel. And it's fun to do what I do, although I'll tell you, in a year like this year, it's very challenging to do what I do as well.
Thanks, Sue. And last but not least, Andrea Kleisick.
Thanks, Roscoe. So my name's Andrea Kleisick. I work for the Niagara County Center for Economic Development. The Center for Economic Development is comprised of the Department of Economic Development, it's a county department, and the Niagara County IDA, the Industrial Development Agency. I'm also the executive director of the Niagara Orleans Regional Land Improvement Corp, the Niagara Orleans Land Bank. And a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Western New York and North Tonawanda. Unlike a lot of my friends, I never had any desire at all to ever to leave Western New York. As a matter of fact, I definitely always felt the opposite of, I knew that I wanted to be involved in my community. I didn't know how that was going to work out or what I was going to do, but I knew that that was what I wanted to do. I briefly thought that may have been through elected office. Not really sure why. I don't know if it was my political science background, but I thought that was going to be my avenue. in life. So I did run for public office, held public office for a brief period of time, and realized that that wasn't quite right, but it definitely led me to my current job, because that provided me with the insight to realize what it was I actually wanted to do. And I was fortunate enough to get into economic development, and I absolutely love my job. So I work with companies that are already in Niagara County that are looking to expand, and assist them with that, and also business attraction, working with companies outside of the area, a lot of them Canadian companies, and explaining to them the benefits of relocating or expanding and having an alternative location in Niagara County. And more recently, Niagara County has created the Niagara Orleans Land Bank, and we have done some work more so in our cities, the city of Niagara Falls, through the land bank, and that's been exciting, because that has pushed into some more community development work, which has been really enjoyable. I was in the leadership class with Roscoe and Ezra, just two of the many great people I met through Leadership Niagara. Yeah, I think that's a good summary of me for now.
Thanks, everybody. So obviously I stacked the deck tonight as best class ever 2016, so I had to bring some backup to the conversation here. Some really cool tidbits about some of the folks we have. Judge Watson holds the title, holds the championship belt for Speaker of the Year multiple years. So it was awesome to hear you speak at my class in 2016. But I'm sure you had that experience and that hold on many classes years after.
Well, thank you very much. But yes, I've enjoyed watching Leadership Niagara evolve and being involved with them throughout the years. When I first started, it was a much smaller program, kind of focused on learning about the county and a little networking, and it has so much seen the evolving into an interperspective where you're learning leadership skills, you're becoming mentors for yourselves, you're finding guidance to be the best leaders you can. So it's been amazing to be a part of the ride, and I'm thrilled that many of the classes enjoyed what I had to show them.
And I love the fact our group tonight, very diverse, really shows the diversity of members of the Leadership Niagara experience, but also the diversity that we have in industry and community throughout our region. So I want to get some a hot take from everybody, but would love to hear how each of you came to find Leadership Niagara. What are some of your key takeaways from your experience, and what was the best part of your experience? How it meant to you going through the LN experience?
Well, as a young man at the time, way back in '98, I was trying to work myself into a good career in the district attorney's office, and I knew that being part of the legal community was something that I wanted to do. Much like Andrea, I felt that desire to not only live in the community that I grew up in, but improve the community that I grew up in. So everything I try to do is focus on Lockport. And in addition to being good in the legal community, I was highly involved in the community itself to try and make things better, and especially youth organized. And I know it's great to see that the Schratzes joined us today. Dr. Schratz and Lizzie, I was part of the Palace Board. And if you think of Lockport, the Palace is exactly one of the things that I loved being a part of throughout the years as a board member. So I felt that at the time, Leadership Niagara was a great fit to kind of bring my professional as well as my community involvement together. Enjoyed the program immensely. I mean, at the time, we had a lot of individuals that were there representing different companies, and the companies would select individuals. For myself, it was a personal desire to do. I wanted to put myself through it, so you paid for my own way to go in. Even though I was a young attorney, not making much in a district attorney's office, I felt that it was important to do. And then again, to watch Leadership Niagara evolve over the years and continue to be a part of it was amazing. One of the most interesting experiences that I had in the program was the Niagara Falls Air Force Base. We had the opportunity to fly down to Arizona and see the boneyard and do a mid-air refueling. It was a very wonderful thing. One thing that opened my eyes as part of that particular class was, being a young man, I came in with my tunnel vision that everybody sees the world the way that I do. And I know one of the first things that we did was you take that personality test that tells you you're introvert, extrovert, are you a monkey, a lion, you get your sticker to wear on your name tag. And we took the test, and they start going over the answers, and I'm seeing other people that I know in this program that I respect answered them differently. And I'm like, No, these are right or wrong questions. This isn't a discretionary thing. Everybody's supposed to answer these the way I answered them, right? So it truly opened my eyes to see that wonderful people that I respected see the world differently, and I have to understand that, accept that, and work within those parameters. So that's one of the biggest things that I took away from that, was just an eye-opening experience to realize that, you know, wonderful people come from all walks of life. They see things differently, and if I want to be a leader, I need to be able to understand that and incorporate that into how I relay information and how I work within my community.
All right, thank you. I'll toss up the same question to the rest of the group.
Well, I'll go next. I think, and a lot of what Judge Watson has just said was probably what we all wanted to experience from Leadership Niagara. But I think once you get into your career, like I did it in 2015, so I was already on the pathway of, you know, I've had a couple of different careers. I had been in radio, I had worked in museums, I'd worked in education, but I had been in tourism and especially in downtown Niagara Falls for, you know, about 10 years. And you start to work in a silo, and you think that, just like Judge Watson said, everybody thinks like you and everybody knows what you're doing. And a lot of times you think, because, especially myself, I work in marketing and I work in promotions, I think that, you know, the word is out there. Everybody's heard of this and they know exactly what's going on. That's not the truth. And when you go and you're in the same room with 40 different people that you respect and are from totally different fields, different walks of life, got to where they are totally different ways, and you recognize how people receive information, you realize that it's really hard to work in a silo, and you start to think very differently after you do Leadership Niagara, because people accept and receive information totally differently, and you start to then, I think, to put the news out there, or put, you know, especially if you're a marketing person, in different ways. And especially now, because people aren't just reading traditional newspaper or watching traditional news outlets. There's so many different ways people are receiving information. You have to be open to recognizing how people are receiving it and bring it to them at their level.
Okay, if I jump in.
Oh, go ahead.
So I agree with what the other two esteemed panelists have said, but also I think another way of putting it is that Leadership Niagara helped me think outside the box, like Susan said, and Judge Watson. Coming from an education background, I had been a special ed teacher and then a school psychologist for a number of years. I met so many different people from so many different areas. The networking capabilities also that Judge Watson alluded to, of being able to resource with the people in your class and in people in other classes, because the Leadership Niagara experience allowed me to become a volunteer for a number of different organizations and agencies. And from there, I met more people that had been in Leadership Niagara. So it just kind of, the role just kept expanding. And I just was so impressed at going through the Leadership Niagara program with the amount of talent and the number of people in Western New York, and it's particularly in Niagara County, just the amount of talent and resources that people are putting out into the area to make the community better. One of the things I noticed, and it was towards the end of my career when I went through Leadership Niagara, looking towards doing different things when I retired, is I noticed that Rochester had a restorative practice organization for over 20 years, Partners in Restorative Initiatives, PERI, and Erie County had Erie County Coalition for Restorative Justice, and they've had that for about 7 years, and Niagara County had no resources for restorative practices. So Leadership Niagara helped me recognize a need in the community and gave me the skills to step out of my box and to look at bringing restorative practices into Niagara County.
Ezra, what about your experiences?
Yeah. So you know, when we talk about as far as why we joined, you know, the biggest thing that comes to mind is elevation. Elevation was definitely something in my mind as far as wanting to grow as a leader and also professionally. Also because I knew 2016 that was going to be the best class ever, you know, with, you know, the group that was joining. But I decided, you know, to join Leadership Niagara to expand my reach to resources that were available in the community, along with gaining access that I was not aware of, I'll say, as a young African-American male, or to many of, individuals that's, from my community. And then, talking about some of the key takeaways, it was very interesting because I'll be honest, I was very intimidated the very first day when I had walked into the room at the Sheraton Hotel. Over 40 people in the room. I, was the only African-American in there. But one of the key things that I've heard as far as, when it comes to growing as a person, you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. So it was prior to actually becoming a city councilman, I had never really held a managerial role, from being an athlete all through high school and being an athlete through college, and then coming home 2 years after. So it was almost like I went from, what do they talk about in business, from like a level of 500, 1,000 feet to jumping up 30,000 feet high. And with my experience of being in Leadership Niagara, I was rubbing elbows with C-level executives and being able to see the larger picture and not just limited just in Niagara Falls, but seeing Niagara County as a whole, and also just the whole entire region of Niagara County. I was very fortunate to be able to have a sponsor, Darius Miles, who has a construction company. He was able to sponsor me and, to afford me to be able to attend Leadership Niagara. But I was able to be much more aware that there's a lot of other individuals that may not have the same opportunity that I did. So the biggest things that I've learned from just going throughout all of Niagara County and even in Canada, the two biggest things is access and equity as far as issues that we need to focus on, but also even just working with Leadership Niagara and different organizations throughout Western New York so that we can really try to push to get greater minority presence and leadership. So access and equity, and just my experience of being able to have my colleagues come to Niagara Falls that weren't familiar, and me being able to kind of just show them around and being able to kind of just even rediscover Niagara Falls myself and learning how I could try to, use my efforts and my work, my skills to continue the community build. So it's an invaluable experience for me.
And Andrea, how about your experience and your how you found the LN?
You know what? I went into Leadership Niagara more as a networking opportunity. I think it's really important if you're going to work in the community, and my job is primarily based in working in Niagara County, and knowing who the partners are, knowing who are the people are, because it just makes things a lot easier. And I think it enriches your own life. Just on this panel, for example, it's, when Roscoe or Pat call for something, I know that you came to the Cataract Fund for the building, and it just knowing how hard that you guys worked for that project caused us to want to work that much harder to make sure that that grant was given to this project. And it really brings you into other people's passions, and you want to support it that much more when you know what they're putting into it. So, initially it was, on the surface, a networking thing, but then it developed into a much deeper, more meaningful networking. And then one other thing I'd like to point out, and I know that Judge Watson had said this, is that knowing that your point of view or the way you think isn't the only way to think, I feel like I kind of knew that going into it. What I learned from it, though, is that not only is somebody not thinking like you or seeing something, but that causes them to react in a way that you probably, or at least I didn't previously understand or appreciate why they would be doing that. So, that kind of goes hand in hand. One of the things that speaks to me when I look back, when I was going through Leadership Niagara, my youngest daughter was really little. So I think when you have little kids, you have like this idea of, I don't know, like how you should raise kids, because like you're raising kids, so like you're the only one doing it or something. So you like develop these really like strict ideas of how you think everything should be, because you've read, 1,000 books and this is just the way it is. And nobody can tell you differently, or at least that was me. So I had this idea of like, this whole attachment theory of being with children and blah, blah, blah. So when Mark Laurie, the superintendent of Niagara Falls, spoke, one of the things he was talking about was, having younger and younger children involved in like I'm not going to be able to speak to it exactly what he said, but basically I think it was like earlier intervention and earlier. And I'm thinking to myself, like, no, the kids should be with their parents and they should be with their mother and you should be attached, and like this whole like rosy idea that I had of how things should be because that's the way I read about it and blah, blah, blah. But what I came to find out was the circumstances that might not, I can't speak for him. I can say that I think he does an amazing job and I'm in awe of everything that he does for the city of Niagara Falls. But what I think I took away from that lecture that day, I don't know if he personally believes that, but I know that he's doing the best for the circumstances in which he's being dealt in that school district. So just because you have an opinion, sometimes you have to realize that your opinion doesn't necessarily apply to the situation everywhere. And that was really impactful for me that day because, I walked away from it thinking, wow, this man has a lot on his plate. And maybe I was aware of it on the surface, but not to that level. And so really appreciating why he was doing what he was doing because it was, fit that circumstance the best.
I love everyone's takes on how they felt going through the program and how they found the program to begin with. I was new to my position at the NGTI, so I was kind of nudged into it as a networking opportunity. And I love what Ezra said about, learning from those uncomfortable situations. Those of you who probably know me well know that I hate speaking in front of crowds or even in this setting. And I remember that very first day where you go around the room introducing yourself. Even that was enough to give me a minor heart attack, as you have to get up and introduce yourself, say where you're from. But what I love most about the Ellen experience is you're put in those situations where you're learning more about yourself. And really, my experience with Ellen has helped me find my professional voice, to be able to voice my opinions, to be able to do it in a professional and respectful way with peers. And also, Judge Watson talked about those DISC assessments. That was huge for me as communication tools moving forward in my career, even when I'm communicating with my wife at home. I had her take a DISC the week after we took ours, and it really helped us understand better because, once again, we're all in that mindset of everybody thinks the same way I do, everybody looks at things the same way. Even from that initial DISC, I was able to get a better perspective of how different people react to different things, what their motivators are. So it really helped me really carry that along professionally and personally. So it's awesome to hear about, we all have different perspectives, but it's good that we all have that commonalities in place. So we know the Leadership Niagara experience, 12 months, we go through so many different aspects of Niagara County. And I know I tend to get stuck in the moment in each and every one of those Thursdays, but would love to ask the group, how did you use your relationships, your perspectives, what you've learned in the LN experience? How did you take that back to your careers? How did you take that back into your communities to do some impactful change in your region?
Well, if we continue to go on in the order, I'll jump on that one as quickly as I can. Everybody does it for networking ideas. And I think when I was younger, I realized it's my job to solve every problem. And then you quickly realize that me solving it as an individual is a much more bigger task than if I bring others in and not reinvent the wheel. So as a member of Leadership Niagara, I was able to walk out of there having a number of individuals that I could pick up the phone and call and bring part of our team. We developed, every treatment court has every aspect of recovery as part of that team. So I have members from all over Niagara County's treatment facilities that are part of helping me find solutions. And again, I'm not only going to advocate people to do the program, but I'm going to advocate for all of you to be day presenters and stay involved, because every year that we have individuals come into this court system, I have a handful of people that stick around afterwards that want to talk about what they saw and what they see that we're doing and want to help. So I have individuals, hey, you know what, we can provide this, or we can do that, or it may not even be helping me, it might be learning something that they can help themselves. Like, I got a sister-in-law that is falling into these type of issues. Can I do this? Can I do that? So not only do I have the network that was built for my class of 1998, but I also have every class that had an interest or a desire to be a part of what we're doing here has stayed connected to try and help out with what we do. So yes, be day presenters, because some of you are correct that you may have been part of the best class ever, but I can guarantee that if the best class ever occurred anywhere between 1998 and today, I was involved with that class, whether or not a personally graduate from that, or being able to have the privilege of them coming into their lives and sharing those experiences with me, and me being able to utilize their skills at a future date when needed. So those are some of the big takeaways that I have.
So,
Guess I'm next. Am I next?
yeah,
Are we doing the same order, Roscoe? I'm sorry if I'm out of order. I think one of my favorite leadership experiences, and I don't know what you call it, Liz, if you want to unmute yourself, is when we were in Canada and we did the joint program with the Canadian mayors. And I was heavily involved in so many of the volunteer activities in Niagara Falls, the Niagara County Poverty Conference, the Juvenile Justice Task Force. And when I heard Mayor Sezdik talk about the compassionate community that he had started in St. Catharines, Ontario, I stayed afterwards and spoke with him, and he became the keynote speaker at the Niagara County Poverty Conference, who the next year changed the name of the Niagara County Poverty Conference to Compassionate Niagara. So the impact that Leadership Niagara had on an individual person going through one of their sessions, for me to bring that back, and then, to bring to the committee work and the volunteer work that I was doing in Niagara County, and then have it impact that whole group of people and onward, because from there we developed many conferences for compassion, and I went on to take a compassionate integrity training, an intensive training course through the Charter for Compassion, and our organization's a Charter for Compassion partner. So it was that seed that Leadership Niagara planted in myself that expanded throughout as we did, that session. Just in my mind, that session just kept going and going.
And what Bonnie's talking about is each year we have a bi-national collaboration day with our neighbors to the north in Leadership Niagara, Ontario, because we are a unique region, and we are, a bi-national region. And so many of the things impacting us here on this side of the border are challenges and issues that are being challenged on the other side of the border. And so we bring together once a year both groups to collaborate and talk about some of those things. So that's the day that Bonnie is referencing.
So I will say that there's other ways to stay involved too, although since my Leadership Niagara graduation in 2015, I've helped facilitate Tourism Day for the next few years, bringing on some keynotes, and John Percy, who's my boss now, just to have people recognize, like I said, you think because tourism is so top of mind in Niagara County, especially if you're working in it, that everybody must know what's going on in tourism. Well, it's not the truth. I mean, people have other priorities. And just because it's a leading industry in Niagara County, it doesn't mean that everybody knows, what goes into tourism, and how everybody really plays their own role in it, even just as being a resident of Niagara County. So, helping facilitate that. But I also was able for 2 years to be the chairperson of the Leadership Niagara Luncheon, which was absolutely a lot of fun. It was nice to be on the committee, but it's also nice to pass the baton. But my good friend and classmate Chris Mara and I chaired it for 2 years, and we're proud to say that we did it the 1 year that we went thinking that our keynote speaker dropped out, and then very, very luckily ended up getting Vanessa Williams as our keynote speaker that year. So there's a lot of ways to stay connected, and we helped with fundraising, and we had more than a sold out room. Obviously, I would like to say it was because people just wanted to support Leadership Niagara and we were great chair people, but I know it was, everybody wanted to see Vanessa Williams, but that said, there are just so many different committees and ways to stay involved afterward that, even like what Judge says, I mean, you could have graduated 20 years ago from Leadership Niagara, but you can still stay very impactful and relevant, and keep your field, very involved with Leadership Niagara by just staying in touch and seeing what the needs are and how we can help, fundraising, or how things are changing in your fields or different fields throughout leadership, and how you might even be able to just lend some things that might alleviate some costs for Leadership Niagara that might be absolutely nothing or hardly anything for you to do, but it really is helpful for the program and to grow and to keep people involved and to learn year after year. So I've always been very happy to stay involved, and very happy to stay involved with my class too. Once again, this year it sucked for lack of a better term, because we haven't been able to really get together, and we were a class that did that. So we're looking very forward to getting back together and seeing each other face to face and being able to hug one another without masks on. So it's 2020 is, my hat's off to those that graduated this year, because it's a tough thing if you're not able to collaborate the way the rest of the classes were in the past.
Ezra, I saw you unmute a couple of times. What are you thinking?
I mean, I was going to actually just speak on perspective and kind of just what we took from Leadership Niagara. And I know a few people have spoke on the fact that, we can process information differently, or just even the conversation as far as, maybe having different views or approaches. But, hearing how Mark Lurie presented it and then becoming more open-minded, with understanding the circumstances. But I'll say one of the things that I've really learned as far as becoming a leader, also going through Leadership Niagara, there's a quote by Carol Mosley Braun where she says, "There are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests." And what I've learned was that we all may come from different backgrounds, we may all have different leadership styles, and sometimes through miscommunication, misunderstanding, we may end up seeing each other as the opposition. And I think this goes kind of along with the question that was asked in the chat. But what happens and was lacking is communication with one another and relationship building, to where you can begin to start pulling away from the layers and breaking down barriers and being able to understand how you do have some sort of common interests and commonalities with one another. And through those relationships, you can begin to build and work together to develop a greater Niagara County, Niagara Falls. So, just being able to understand we all come from different backgrounds, but just being able to have solid dialogue with each other, but also having an open mind as well.
Thanks, Ezra. Andrea?
Yeah, you know what, just to echo what Ezra said, I think that's spot on. I think that's true. I often say, by and large, I mean, coming off a pretty, I don't know, radical, testy, political cycle, I can say that, I always try to remind myself and people that, because a lot of people have thought about these kinds of things, and it's like, at the end of the day, I really believe that we all want the same things, and the argument is really probably, by and large, just a disagreement on how we get there. So with Leadership Niagara, it just opens the door to a lot of people and a lot of different agencies across the county that can help us get there. And so just in building those relationships so we can all get to where we need to be. And at the end of the day, I think our goal is probably all the same in one way or another, is just having a better community. I mean, when you boil it all down, that's really what we all want.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that we talk about the LN journey, that the actual physical classes are just really the first step in everything. And even after graduation, I've learned that, I'm probably dating myself, that I mentioned that I can open up my Rolodex, and whenever I'm working on a project, I can call pretty much anybody within my class or even in other classes and just say, what do you think about this project? Same thing with Andrea. When we were doing track, I picked up the call, we're doing this. She had a conversation with Pat and myself. When I'm working on my workforce development projects, I can call Sue or Ezra, Bonnie, what we've said in a couple of workforce development programs. So it's great to see the fact that the network is so wide that you can just pick up a phone call and you're getting a different perspective based and seeing something that you probably would have never thought of before, but having that other person look at it from a different lens so improves what you're thinking about or improves a project so much.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing now is we're going to take a few questions from the chat itself. So we've got a question from Whitney here. Ezra kind of touched upon it a little bit, but she's asking, since all of your roles, one way or another, are involved in restorative practices, what do you see are the greatest present challenges to restoration within Niagara County? Awesome question.
I really like this question. I think it really gets to the heart of what we're living through right now with, I would say, defining them as multiple pandemics. So for us with the Niagara Alliance for Restorative Practice, one of our biggest challenges was going virtual. We facilitate circles to community build and to build relationships. And we had never done anything virtual. But since that time, all of our, all the other co-founders and myself did extensive facilitation training to do all of our circle work online. So we've been able to maintain the circles that we were doing with the schools and with the organizations that reached out to us. So I think that's a big challenge. The other part is to have those discussions, like everyone on the panel has said, to have the circles, to build relationships, to talk about the racial inequities and the injustices. And so that's the challenge that we're meeting through, the capacity building and the human capacity and the strengths and talents from the LN network.
I think Ezra touched upon it earlier, is I think it's communication. That's one of the things where we all kind of get stuck in our own silos within our own industries, within our own regions. But I think one of the biggest hurdles is just having these open and honest conversations with each other and being honest about what the situations are. But it's good to be able to just start pushing that envelope. And you have to have those difficult conversations from time to time to really get progress going.
Right, and also just defining what does restoration look like, right? I mean, everybody would have a different sort of blue sky, potentially. So getting in the same room and drawing up a plan or having a vision for where we're headed.
I have a question here for Ezra. So the question is, how does your MBA degree add value to the work you're doing now?
So my MBA degree, it was a dual concentration in human resource management and also strategic management. One of the greatest things I'll say that, really has, played a part in the work that I do is people. People are your greatest asset. So I'm not a numbers person. I'll just be honest with everybody. So I did contemplate on going to, getting my MBA in finance or maybe accounting. But then I started doing research on human resource management and how that was something that was just so critical in today's society, as far as how we operate with one another and function and how you can really oversee and manage people. And in my work as a peacemaker, I'm dealing with people all throughout the community. And it's really allowed me to be able to take my skill sets from Leadership Niagara, learning how to become empowered myself, how to empower others, how to delegate, learning about leadership and how to build other leaders as well. But also, again, just learning most importantly, our greatest asset, whether it's a business or even a city. It's about really pouring into your community, empowering them, giving them hope, because I think a lot of people in Niagara Falls, when you just talk about one of the cities that's probably facing some of the most issues, it's really about fixing the apathy that's here. And I think some people feel forgotten. So I would say my skill set and what I've learned in my MBA in human resource management and just learning how to deal with people and empower them, that's what really helped me out the most.
All right, and just talking about community in general, the group. So whether it's somebody graduating from NU or just anybody in the community, what would be your advice for them to, what's their first step if they want to get involved in the community? We all had different experiences, we all come from different circumstances, but if somebody wants to get involved, regardless of where they're coming from, what age group, what do you think is a good first step for them to be involved in the community?
I always say volunteer. And that was part of my leadership philosophy. We had to develop our philosophy, and I had, you know, this quote about, if you want to make your community look the way you want it to, you know, volunteer, get involved. Everyone has strengths and talents. A basis of restorative practices that everyone is good, wise, and powerful, and everyone has strengths. So use those strengths to promote and build your community.
And kind of echoing what you just said, honestly, I think a lot of people, they underestimate what volunteerism can do for them as a person individually. Just prime example, I was never thinking about getting into a political career, ever running for city council or anything of that nature. But volunteerism is just something that was just in my spirit. It was something that I did. It was one of the things I just started doing once I had moved back to Niagara Falls after being away for a few years. And it was through my efforts within being in the community when somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, well, you ever thought about, you know, maybe running for office or maybe doing this? And then it was just so many opportunities started coming just through the amount of network that I was doing through volunteering and just meeting other good people. So I think a lot of people definitely underestimate what could take place through the opportunities that can open up through volunteering and just networking and meeting other good people.
And I would add to that, just stay engaged and don't go negative. There's a lot of social media out there, and it's very easy. And I know, Ezra, you know this, that people are just really, you know, want to be on their keyboards and they want to naysay everything that's happening within Niagara County. And there's a lot of good stuff that's happening too, but it's so easy to go negative, and it's so easy to go down that rabbit hole of all the things that are bad and shouldn't be done anymore, and why is this happening, and just to try to knock down people that are trying to do good. So I would say stay engaged and stay positive, because positivity is what Niagara County needs. We need more positivity. If you look to our neighbors in Erie County and you see all the stuff that they're doing and the development that's happening there, you'll recognize that there's a lot of people that are very positive about what they're doing, and they're from different fields and different walks of life, and they're all working together and staying very positive, and they're squashing that negativity. And we need more of that in Niagara County. We absolutely do. And programs like Leadership Niagara absolutely help perpetuate the positivity in Niagara County.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you as far as avoiding the negativity. But then I also say a lot of people need to just become, I hate to get too involved into politics, but I think a lot of people need to really understand the political process as well. You know, we look at the politics, we say we don't agree with what this person did, but guess what? You can vote. You know, there are re-elections. You can be a part of the process. I think a lot of people aren't aware of how things work, to where you even have city council meetings every other Wednesday. If you have an issue, you can go down there and actually speak directly to the mayor, to the city council members, and actually let them know what it is that you feel. Or even there's boards and there's commissions down at City Hall. And a lot of those boards and commissions, I mean, they have a lot of input as far as the decisions that our elected officials make. So there's a ton of ways to definitely get involved. We just have to actually do our due diligence and look into it.
From my perspective, I would say that people need to find the time to be able to give back. And it's hard to do sometimes. It's that balance between sacrificing your personal time and getting involved. One of the things that I love that Leadership Niagara has done over the last several months is have these type of forums where they're inviting their alumni or other individuals from the community to share and have ideas. And every time anybody clicks in and sees one of these events, I'm sure you walk out with a little idea in your head. I've had a few people already comment to me today, hey, I can help you here, or we can do this. Those are things that we need to cherish. But if we look at all the years that Leadership Niagara has been doing what they're doing, and we have these events, and it's such a small percentage of individuals that take the time to come in and hear that message so that they can pass it along, we need to do that. So keep talking things up. If every time you get one more person in the loop, that's another person that can hear something and spread it along. But trying to find people that have the time to stay involved with their community and do it the correct way, especially like Leadership Niagara, they're some of the most amazing people out there. And it's hard to even get them to come on these links to share these ideas, but we got to keep knocking on those doors and getting them here and making sure that that message gets shared between everybody we know.
And can I just add one thing? I guess I want to tie some of these views together. I think that the positivity point is huge. And then going back, and we absolutely need to encourage volunteerism. And then to what Ezra said about political leaders and the ability to vote. But also, I try to always think to myself, you know, when you look at some of the people, our political leaders at every level, by and large, I like to believe that most of those people got involved for the right reasons. And sometimes they just take an awful lot of abuse. And I just wonder, like, why would, and maybe Ezra, you could even attest to this, like, not like you're getting rich off of it. So, you know, I try to remind myself, a lot of these people are out there trying to do the best they can, and maybe they have reasons, and we as community leaders, we should, you know, try to always stay positive and look for why people are doing things the way they're doing them, and support those efforts, and always encourage people to get involved, because I think it's getting harder and harder to get young people to want to be involved, whether it be in the political process or a volunteer role. So that negativity, it really crushes our future leaders.
Yeah, definitely right. Not getting rich from it. But you know, it's this perception that you are, right? A lot of people think that you're getting these big bucks. But kind of just going off what you said, I heard somebody say a couple years ago during the election, somebody had made a comment about there's a difference. You don't have to fight. They were talking about a specific elected official, but they said these two key words. They said, instead of fighting them, engage them, right? And I think a lot of people really don't understand, you know, it's not a major difference in the words, but they're two totally different approaches. And I think that instead of going to fight somebody right off the muscle, you're putting somebody on defense, right? But when you come and you engage them, it kind of goes back to what we were all talking about, how we all come from different perspectives and backgrounds. But if we can sit down and really have some conversation to understand why you made this decision, why you did this, why you feel this, and then being able to share why we feel this way, it really eases a lot of tension. Example, whenever the protests were taking place, when the unfortunate situation with George Floyd took place this summertime, I know one of the major roles that the Niagara Falls Peacemakers played was when there was a surprise protest. Shucks. When there was I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. When there was a surprise protest, what happened was a lot of the residents were fussing at the police officers saying, take a knee, take a knee. So at first we're looking like, well, why aren't the officers taking a knee? It's something so simple, right? So, you know, obviously the officers not taking a knee, they're getting a little hostile. But then we were able to just kind of have a conversation with the captain and chief and also the mayor. They were able to explain to us, well, there's protocol. If they take a knee, they put themselves where they can be at harm, and also the residents can be at harm. So us as peacemakers, being able to have that conversation with our leaders, being able to, in our way, explain that to the residents, they were able to become more understanding, and then that really de-escalated a lot. And next thing you know, they were all the mayor, chief, sheriff, and everyone else was taking a knee. So it's the communication a lot of times, and again, engaging instead of fighting.
Yeah, I watched that on live stream, Ezra, through you on Facebook, because we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
I watched it. Yeah, I was really proud of the city of Niagara Falls that night.
Thank you. Yeah, so like I said, I think that's a great example as far as engaging one another instead of always fighting, and just talking, understanding one another.
I think, Ezra, you hit the nail on the head. If you want to stay engaged, and if you're very passionate about something, you also have to educate yourself about it and what came before, or what you may or may not be reading on social media. So, you know, that's a great way of staying positive too, you know, to make sure that if it's a cause that you feel, you know, passionate about, and so passionately that you want to get involved, or you want to volunteer, or you want to share messages about it, the best way to share the message is to make sure you're sharing the truth, and make sure that you are educating yourself and what, like I said, became, or what happened prior to you getting on board with, you know, whatever the incident is, or whatever, you know, the thing that you're volunteering for, you know, before you got on board with it. You got to make sure you know what brought people there, and that, you know, if you're trying to get other people to get involved, to educate them and let them know, especially a lot of what we said, maybe what the political process is, you know, how hard decisions need to be made, how hard decisions were made in the past. A lot of times people are taking a lot of hits, and it's not their fault. You know, budgetary concerns in Niagara County, and especially in Niagara Falls, there are a lot of things that led our city to be where we are right now. And so, you know, to just go online and think that, you know, just because you rattle off something that sounds really hip and cool, it doesn't necessarily mean you know what's going on. So you got to stay engaged, you got to stay informed and educated before you can really share your passion about things.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't think a lot of people really understand the power of words, but also the power of social media. You know, you put something out there, because I know I heard back in college, they talked about 6 degrees of separation, how we're all connected. But then even with social media now, it's almost like decreased to 3 degrees of separation. You know, you put something on Facebook, you have no idea how, you know, somebody can read that post and it has an impact on their temperament, right? But I say that all to say is social media, and also even the media, can also have a huge negative impact on Niagara County and Niagara Falls. I remember talking to somebody, and they talked about how there was a certain newspaper, I ain't gonna say it, but they were talking about how it was always criticizing Niagara Falls. But you had actual businesses that were reading online, looking up, and they're reading these articles. So it's, you know, putting a black cloud over Niagara Falls. So again, we have to stop speaking so negative and, you know, speak more life and positivity. So I agree with you, Sue, and everybody else.
All right, well, I'd like to thank everyone for your time tonight. Our panelists, thank you, always a wealth of knowledge and experience around the region, all the folks who tuned in and came in tonight. This program is actually being released via YouTube, so I'll share that with everybody who registered for the program. Thank you again to Leadership Niagara for putting on the program, but also being a partner for tonight's program. Niagara University's College of Business for being a constant supporter for the NGTI and TREC and for all our programming. And once again, to all of you for joining us tonight. Want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and then everybody stay safe and take care. And we'll see you for our next Guy Talk coming in February.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care. Happy
Safe,
holidays.
everyone.
Happy holidays, everyone. Take care.
Happy holidays.